What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at DataDash, and today is March 3rd of 2021. Well, folks, I hope you are having a fantastic day wherever you are. And in today's video, we're not only going to be diving into taking a look at the broader cryptocurrency market, which has been showcasing a strong rebound over the last couple of days since we last spoke, but outside of that as well, diving into some specific topics, a specific DeFi altcoin that I think you guys really should keep your eye on. It's one of our top 10 picks for the year, but outside of that as well, spending some time to dive into Bitcoin and talking about setting some real conservative estimations on how the rebound will actually look like before we hit all-time highs yet again. And last but not least, we have a sponsored review of the TaxBit platform, a long-term partner here on the channel. And it could be very valuable for a lot of you out there who are starting to plan for tax season coming up here in just the next few weeks. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive straight into the video, guys. And diving in first, I want to take a look at the larger plays here. We got Bitcoin up 5%, Ethereum up 2.6% after already making a pretty strong rebound over the last few days. But broadly speaking here, we can see that there's a lot of cryptocurrencies in the green. The vast majority of the crypto market here showcasing green price action with a few in neutral territory down to a few exceptions in the red. So this is really nice to see this kind of broad trend happening across the board. And it's one of those signals that gives us a clear sign that overall the market is here to stay, that we're over with the correction. We've seen the worst of it. And I want to go ahead and just showcase a chart that is really honestly something you don't get to see very often, because there's only one period of time within the cycle that this is going to happen. And I got to tell you guys, whether you're a TA freak like myself, or more specifically someone who likes to view things on a longer term time frame and step back, this is like it's like Picasso, right? This is the kind of art that you want to see when it comes to charts. So we had the peak out here, and I'll go ahead and just kind of scale it down here to the auto scale. So what we're taking a look at here is the total market cap excluding Bitcoin. So altcoin market cap from Ethereum all the way down to the small caps, right? So we can see here that we peaked out here around $705 billion. As you can see, there's H, O, H, L, and C, the open, high, low, and close. You can see that the high that we set in was around $705 billion for altcoin market cap. And as we came down, we actually set in a low of around 455 billion. A lot of people got concerned. We wiped off a ton of valuation off there on the map within a couple of days. And a lot of people were thinking that, oh my gosh, the altcoin cycle is over. You know, we should just run for the hills. The markets are done for. Take your profits while you can. Well, look at what happened here. Look at exactly the range we found support on. The all-time highs from back in January of 2018. This is exactly what we wanted to see, guys. It is not only one of the most healthy things you can see, because we obviously have been having, just bear in mind back from March of 2020, so we're coming up on a year here, we've gone from around $36 billion in altcoin market cap from the absolute low towards a new high, in this case, of $705 billion. No wonder we're going to be getting some corrections like this. In fact, it's good to see this, because when we can have these corrections at pertinent times where we get to also solidify support on previous all-time high resistance back in the previous cycle, that is a gold mine in this case for technical patterns, for continuations of bull cycles. And again, just to kind of zoom out here, we wrote this chart again back in the Dash report a while back, and we also demonstrated it here on the channel once or twice. You can see here that we've made support here not only on a critical line, but that we are just in the beginning phases here. We're not even all the way through with our general estimations of the overall altcoin cycle, right? There are going to be many cycles within it. Again, if you want to be more specific, we're in, I think, what's known as the first altcoin cycle. We're about halfway through that one. And then later down the line, we're going to be able to enter into the secondary altcoin cycle, which was very akin or similar to what we saw from November to January 2018. Right? So we are just in the beginning phases of this, guys. And it's important to realize that these things take time. There are going to be many drawdowns of 30, 40%. But again, always keeping in mind that positive nature about how to approach these markets. And again, if you guys want to see a more kind of in-depth point that actually kind of builds off of this, again, we actually just submitted our new Dash report out for this month and talked a little bit about this. But overall, you guys can see here that we're exactly where we need to be here, finding support on that previous around $500 billion all-time high here for altcoin market cap back here from the previous cycle. And we can see here that DeFi tokens are completely going alongside the trend here. Lots of plays in double-digit territory, many in upper single-digit territory, with very few exceptions down here in the red. Now, one play that I want to spend some time to talk about here today, and to be candid with you guys, I am an advisor to the project and stuff, so I do have a bit of a biased view to it. I do want to spend some time to talk about Warp here. Now, I don't really join onto many projects, to be fair to you guys. I've always been transparent about this kind of stuff, and I don't feel the need to be, per se, kind of quiet about it and stuff. I like to let you guys know when I really sink my teeth into working with a project, there has to be a reason for it. And Warp Finance is one of those projects. Now, for those of you who don't know already, I'm a massive fan of automated market makers. These are platforms like Uniswap, Loopring, SushiSwap, all types of different providers that allow you to store pairs of liquidity, or in this case, LP, basically liquidity provision in this case, right? You're providing Ethereum and USDC, and by providing that liquidity of two specific cryptocurrencies, you give people the ability to trade between two different cryptos with an autonomous smart contract that's trustless. It's always running on Ethereum. And with the advent of layer 2, we could see fees much, much lower and even lower slippage rates than most major exchanges. This is a really, really interesting value proposition. But there's a big problem at the end of the day, and that is that as people are providing their liquidity, they're also getting an asset known as LP tokens, or liquidity provider tokens. They're kind of an IOU or a claim on those original bits of liquidity that you're providing to automated market makers, those original coins that you have locked up on that protocol to help people actually make liquid trades. Well, before then, in this case, before projects and protocols like Warp, those LP tokens would just be sitting in your wallet, and they really couldn't be used for anything specifically. But a lot of people started to come to the conclusion over the last couple of months, so really the last year, that LP tokens could be used as a golden form of collateral, especially if you had a stable coin as half of the pair. Because in this case, if you were to use it as collateral and needed to cover in case of maybe a price decline, instead of the normal 50% decline you would need if you had all your collateral in Ethereum, right? In this case, if you were just using Ethereum as collateral, similar to how you would probably in MakerDAO, in this case, you would need a 75% decline, which is much more unlikely and prevents much more liquidations than the traditional form of collateral. And that's where Warp comes in. They give you the ability to lock up your LP tokens in order to actually go out and borrow a variety of stablecoins. So they actually don't have a native stablecoin yet. There's nothing of the sort there. They actually just wanted to integrate what works right now. So they have, for example, the ability to borrow DAI, synthetic USD from the Synthetics platform, USDT and USDC. And in this case, you can see the actual reserves here. You're able to see again as well how much you could get for depositing your stable coins in the sense of interest, but outside of that as well, how much it's going to take for an LP to borrow it. So again, it gives an ability on both ends for stablecoin holders to earn interest, just like they would through a traditional protocol like Compound or Celsius. And along with that as well, it gives LPs a way to actually lock up their tokens to actually go out and borrow at much more healthier rates. Now, the really cool thing here is that they just broke over $10 million in TVL. And for me, I like to find projects early on in the space that are not only offering a unique selling proposition, this is really one of the major first of its kind in the space, but outside of that as well, this is a very early stage project as LPs start to realize that when they're not farming, when they're not moving around their assets, in this case, they just want to simply, again, they're basically just locking up their LP tokens in the meantime in order to maybe borrow more stablecoin liquidity and go do other things in the space. This is a really big value proposition. It makes total sense. There's not many new things in DeFi. I have to be fair with you guys as someone who's kind of a critic on this space. There's not many new and exciting things out there other than what Warp is doing here. And it's why I joined onto the project back in December before they even launched the token. It's a really, really exciting idea. They did a fair launch, so they didn't actually raise any capital in this case through an ICO. It was a really, really cool project. And this is the kind of stuff that I would say to keep your eye on. There's plenty of projects out there like Warp in the space. There's kind of hidden gems that are starting to come up and offer some unique selling proposition. Whether it's, all kinds of different feature sets within the crypto space. I usually like to focus on things related to borrowing and lending. It's a very easy to understand proposition. And outside of that as well, there are things like yield farming, all kinds of different applications that are really coming up in DeFi. But I highly recommend you take a look into Warp and give it a try if you happen to be providing liquidity to platforms like Uniswap or SushiSwap. They take a lot of different types of LP tokens. Now, going on here towards a much broader topic, and that is the price action of Bitcoin, I want to go ahead and spend some time to dive into what's going on here in regards to price. Now, As we talked about in the last video, we've been kind of going through the stepping staircase here, where again we have the ascendance of price breaking away, and then coming back to the mean here towards the mid part of the cycle, right? We usually have two phases where we have a nice general climb and then things end up going parabolic as people start to FOMO in. We had the first rally here, secondary portion here, and we came down to revisit this. This is a very, very common pattern. And it's usually that if you don't come down all the way to test towards previous resistance as support, you usually set at a level relatively close to it. That's where that midpoint of the cycle is, right? And these kind of miniature cycles within the bull market. And look at that, as we talked about again back last week in the later part of February, when a lot of people were funding down here, when there's a lot of liquidations happening, when we were speaking out against margin trading and all those things that are going to get you caught losing everything in those positions, we said hold on tight, keep focused. This is just a bump in the road. It's a minor correction, right? And we're luckily seeing a rebound now from an absolute low here of around $43,000 in Bitcoin's price. We're now back up to $51,630. Basically right back where we were on February 18th, or back here in the middle part of the day on the 23rd of February. And if you look at the logarithmic chart, take a look at the monthly. Is it really the end of Bitcoin? I don't think so. Again, and this is a very, very valid point here, guys, about not getting caught up on trying to trade every single discount opportunity. It's something, again, we kind of hit on in the Dash report for today's letter in this case, which, again, I think is so important for people to understand on an in-depth basis. But anyways, I digress. I want to spend some time here to talk a little bit about the estimations for how this reversal could go. I have to be honest, the candle price action here that we're seeing, right, what we've seen over the last really 3-4 days here, is looking really good to where there is a possible chance here, a possible chance of us just honestly having a vertical rebound here where we break out and start claiming new all-time highs. But I'm going to keep my estimations conservative, and I want people to bear in mind here, all of you guys listening here, that at the end of the day, you can see something very similar to what we saw back over here, right? We might see it, I'll go ahead and just kind of shrink it here, where we have some sideways consolidation testing this level multiple times in order to guarantee to the market that there's support here, and then starting to set in a combination of higher lows and higher highs before we really start to break out back up to the previous all-time highs and then to new all-time highs. Again, keep your estimations as conservative as possible, guys. It never hurts in this case. But what's good in this case is that we can go about preparing fiat on the side, right? If we have additional capital we want to allocate to the market, we want to put into riding on the wave of the bull market. In this case, this can be a part of time where you can really focus on that, right? Again, just keeping in mind overall that this is the time you want to get optimistic when there's blood in the streets, right? But anyways, I digress. Again, I know I've noticed, I know many of you are going to give me a hard time because I just noticed it myself, as I do from time to time, that I said, in this case, multiple times. I apologize. But you guys, I guess it's what you guys put up with to get the information that I share. I don't know. I'm pretty bad about it sometimes, but I like to take things in a nonstop approach. I like to talk constantly, and I'm not big on doing the jump cuts. I try to do them as little as possible. Now, the last thing I want to talk about here before we dive into the TaxBit sponsored review is taking a look here at the new entities net growth for Bitcoin. Now, that's a fancy term for new wallet generations on basically a daily basis, but what we're looking at is a 365-day moving average. So it's averaging the last 365 days. Take a look at this here. After going on a sharp decline since back here in January 2018, we have now hit a vertical upward swing starting here in the later part of 2020 in December, going into 2021. Now bear in mind here, this is an average. So we have a lot of days here in the past, right? Where, again, this might have been back in March, April, or May, and June, where there probably wasn't a crazy amount of new wallet generations. What happens over the next few weeks and months? We're going to likely break through this all-time high for average generations over a 365-day moving average. We're going to probably break up much, much higher. This was a tweet that was posted it's sourced from Glassnode in this case, which takes on-chain metrics, but was shared by Willy Woo. And it's a really, really good chart here to showcase the dynamics of how we start to see increased wallet generation, both as the asset in this case grows, but also more specifically, when we exit out of bear markets into full swing bull markets. We are just getting started in this process, guys. And I'm so happy to be on this journey with you all throughout the process. So if you like this video, guys, drop a like and stay tuned. We're going to be diving into taking a look at the TaxBit platform, which could be a great tool for all of you out there who are looking to do your taxes this season. Alrighty, everyone. So in today's sponsored review, we're going to be taking a look over a platform that we've been talking about for a long time here on the Data Dash channel, and that is no other than TaxBit, a cryptocurrency tax optimization and documentation platform that allows you to aggregate all of your financial activities in the cryptocurrency space, from your exchange services to interest-earning platforms, all into one singular interface to not only track your financials in this case, but also create simplified, easy to send off documentation to the IRS or other platforms where you might be filing your taxes. So we're going to be diving into all the features around TaxBit because really over the last couple of years, since back in 2018 when we started working with TaxBit as a sponsor, they've really come a long way, and they still seem to be the leading platform in the space when it comes to taxes. It's why we've been working with them for so long. And I got to give props to Austin and Justin, their brothers, who have actually co-founded the startup together. They've built a wonderful product that meets a very important need in a space that was really desperate for a solution that they were building. Now, we're going to be diving through the TaxBit platform here today, but I want to mention two critical things that you should know about if you were to turn off the video right now. First thing here is that for those of you who may not know about how to go about doing cryptocurrency taxes, or maybe you're considering TaxBit but are worried that there's a cost to it without really knowing what you're going to get, you can go ahead, sign up for an account for free today at the link down below, and you also get a discount if you decide to sign up with one of the paid plans. But overall, you're able to input all of your transaction activities from your exchanges to also maybe specific CSV files, maybe interest income from Celsius or BlockFi, and be able to actually calculate your taxable income straight into the application very seamlessly. And you can see that actual realized gain or loss that you have to pay taxes on. And outside of that as well, the second thing that I want to note here, and you can't see it because my webcam is in the way, but here in the bottom right, there's one thing that TaxBit does get right, and that's the ability to provide real human customer support that helps you to answer any questions that you might come up with when it comes to dealing with your crypto taxes. TaxBit covers the vast majority of things, but if you end up hitting a question, they've not only got some great documentation, but some great people who will be able to help walk you through that process, because taxes are something you want to get right, and again, want to be simple, keep it as simple as possible at the end of the day, because it can be a bit overwhelming. Now, what you're seeing here is a demo account that the TaxBit team has been fortunate enough to help me set up with, and it basically is going to showcase all of the general features that are here within the TaxBit platform. So to start off here, let's go ahead and start with the basics. There's a sidebar here that we're going to be navigating through, but we're on the first page within the TaxBit platform here. Once you generate an account, you're going to come here to what's known as the dashboard. And the dashboard here measures the total value of your cryptocurrency assets, total gains and losses, and in this case as well, gives you a summary of current transactions as well as any specific coins that I might be holding. Now, again, this is just a quick demo account here, but you can see all of this information here right from the dashboard. So if you want a quick look into how your gains or losses are looking from all your trading or investing activities, and outside of that as well, the total value portfolio, you're able to do that all from here, and also seeing your main coin balances. But I want to go ahead and we'll take this one step at a time. If you're starting off with TaxBit as a platform, you need to input information. TaxBit can't automatically know from your email or certain data points like that what your transactions look like. They need to know in this case what wallets you're using, if you have specific addresses that they can use as identifiers. They need to know as well the ability of what exchange platforms you're using, where are those transactions happening. So you can do all this through the Add Transaction section. Now, TaxBit allows you to add in all types of different data sets. There's really three critical ones here. So you can import exchanges. So if we go to the Add Exchange button here, we're able to add from hundreds of different exchanges here, main ones like Binance, Bitstamp, major interest earning platforms like BlockFi, we got Bitfinex, Bitflyer, all types of major exchanges, Coinbase, any one that you can probably think of. And you can also search it here as well to see if you can find it. But again with this, and this is a standard API integration, it's basically getting an API key that's a read-only API, which means that they only get access to read the transactions to process them. So they don't get access to trading or withdrawing or anything like that. So your funds are secure. But outside of that as well, you can also add in specific wallets. So I can add in a Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash wallet, Doge wallet, Dash wallet, ETH wallet, Litecoin wallet. And with having Ethereum in there, you're really covering 99% plus worth of tokens out there on the market. So again, you can plug in the vast majority of your activities there. And last but not least, if you don't have a specific wallet here, maybe there's a specific platform that TaxBit hasn't supported for a native exchange integration, or the exchange might not want to give an API key to TaxBit or to other partners. In this case, you could do a CSV import. And a CSV import is going to be a standard Excel file in this case, or Google Sheets file that you can plug in, and they'll actually help you in this case with making sure that the data inside those CSV files are properly structured. So again, if you have any questions, head on down to that bottom right-hand corner and hit on the chat button. They'll be able to help you. But we can see here we have a TaxBit CSV file that we've already imported in with 17 unique transactions. So that's the important thing. Once you get all the data plugged in, it's pretty self-explanatory. Now it's just about optimizing your taxes, making sure that everything looks right, there's no anomalies, and making sure that everything's labeled properly. So let's go ahead and dive through some of these areas here. Let's go to the My Transactions tab, because this is where you'll want to go first once you've actually inputted all the data into the platform. So we can see here that we've got, for example, an event here on the demo account where I sold 2 Bitcoin. I don't know why I'd be doing that, so I'm just kidding. But of course, for example, a lot of us are going to be realizing profits at some point. And again, at the end of the day, what we want to see here is any event where we, for example, bought an asset. Right? In most jurisdictions, in this case, taxable events, it varies depending on the jurisdiction you're in. But if you're in the United States, for example, if I've bought an asset like Bitcoin and now I've sold it, that is a capital gain or a capital loss, depending on whether or not I bought and sold the asset at a higher price, right? So if I bought Bitcoin, for example, at $10,000 and I sold that Bitcoin position at $20,000, that's a capital gain. And vice versa, if I bought it at $20,000 and sold it at $10,000, that's a capital loss. Now, it's really important to understand on a tax basis here, and this is like a tax tip 101 here in this case. If you made gains in this case, first off, you are legally obliged to tell the IRS in this case that you have made gains. It is very important to do this, guys. You do not want to get a letter from the IRS. But on the other end as well, if you happen to be maybe excessively trading or maybe just didn't time the market right and you have some losses, you can write those off from your tax gain obligation to the IRS. In fact, it might be that you may not owe any taxes if you properly input everything into the platform. So it's very important to get that add transaction section right from the get-go. And you can continuously add them later on if you think of another platform. But it gives you all the data and all the activities so TaxBit can get a full picture to make sure to optimize things as properly as possible. Now, let's say, for example, here that, for example, we see bought Bitcoin here, right? In this case, we can see that we bought some Bitcoin through BlockFi. We can see the platform name, the total dollar amount here. But let's say, for example, this wasn't a buying transaction. We didn't actually buy any Bitcoin. Let's just say that things were misread here. Maybe we imported a CSV file and things didn't get right. Sometimes the exchanges as well might have referral programs where you receive referral income off of trading fees like Binance. Well, in this case, maybe I want to edit and make sure that the IRS and the documentation factors in this case, that this wasn't a buying activity, right? In this case, it might be, for example, an income activity, right? So again, you want to make sure to label things properly within the application. I could go here as well, modify this, edit transaction type, and you can change it here from a transfer in transactions. Maybe it isn't income in this case. It's not a taxable event. It's just transferring into my wallet. In this case as well, I can mark it as income or I can mark it as a gift received. And in different jurisdictions, these will have different tax ramifications. So it's best to just make sure that the data is sound, that it makes sense, and you can backtrack over some of those activities to the best of your ability, right? So that's the general goal here. And you can see all your transactions laid out very cleanly throughout the transactions. And also, it's important to note if you wanted to like go backtrack and let's say at thousands of transactions where there's so much noise, you can pick specific currencies. You can pick in this case specific dates. So maybe you've got years worth of activity that you're plugging in, going back to a specific month or year, certain sources. So we can see that on the demo account here, we've got BlockFi and Kraken. And if there's any flags here, for example, maybe for example that there's a certain transaction that TaxBit picks up that says, hey, there doesn't seem to be a matching buy transaction on this, but we see a sell transaction. These are the type of things that TaxBit can really help out with. Now, let's go ahead here, take a look at the My Coins tab, and this is going to be kind of a central place where you can see all of your coins that you currently own. Now again, in this demo account here, we don't see anything at the moment, but if I own, for example, Bitcoin in my Coinbase account, or I owned XRP in my Kraken account, or I had some Bitcoin, Ethereum, or USDC earning interest in BlockFi or Celsius, whatever it may be, we want to make sure that we see them here so we can recognize that not only can we confirm in this case that the APIs are working with all the exchanges that we've integrated, But outside of that as well, just to maybe see our balance in this case, where we stand. So it can be a great place you can come back to and see how your portfolio is performing in this case, how much actual net worth do you actually own in crypto. And again, they give you that button to add transactions here if you don't see anything right. Last but not least here, we've got two key areas here. The specific My Taxes tab here, where you can see your taxable gains and losses, total income. So this is like interest income from platforms like BlockFi. So this is where you can get a good overview once you've inputted everything of what TaxBit is generating here and saying that you might owe. There's a few key things to do though before we get to the point here where we download the IRS 8949, the income report here, where we can actually go about generating those forms and submitting them off. So a few critical things. First off, we might want to plug in, if we already know the information, our specific tax profile. So if we're generating documentation here for 2020 to the 2020 tax season, which will be due here in the States around April, in this case, you want to specify your country. You might as well want to put in your zip code, your filing status, estimated annual income, other types of information here before we actually go ahead and send off our documentation, because that will allow us to actually figure out what our gains and losses are, what our total income obligation is, as there are different brackets for different age groups, different marriage groups, and along with that as well for income, right? Depending on the jurisdiction that you're in. So before we get to downloading this documentation here, the last thing I want to take a look at is the Tax Optimizer tool. Now, this is something really cool that TaxBit has put together. Now, TaxBit at the end of the day not only wants you in this case to help file your taxes and report them properly to the tax authority, but at the end of the day, TaxBit wants to be your personal accountant in this case. They want to help you in this case to be able to optimize your tax obligations. And to make sure that through all of your activity, now that we have this full scope of all the activities that you've done over the year, let's see if we can optimize those and bring down that potential tax obligation. Let's see if we can write off some losses in this case that will allow us to actually lower that tax obligation. So if we come here, for example, XRP is a good one here. We can go to optimize, right? So once we click that optimize button, it's going to pop up here that we can see that we have $22,000 in unrealized losses. And along with that as well, $0 of unrealized gains. Now, I want to go ahead and break this down because taxes can be a bit confusing for the general public, and honestly, I think they're meant to be confusing at the end of the day. The major thing here, though, is it's basic accounting. So we can see here that I bought a position of XRP in this demo account at $56,250. So I spent $56,250, otherwise known as my cost basis, to acquire some XRP off the market through my Kraken account. And we can see here that I have a current position that's now worth $33,945. That's the current market value. That's the total quantity of XRP. It's kind of abstract here. What we really need to know is what was my cost basis, how much did I spend, and how much is it currently worth? Well, there's something really interesting you can do here for tax season in this case. I can right now realize this loss. So I can sell my position, realize a $22,000 loss, and that subtracts from my overall realized gains. So if I've bought cryptocurrencies and sold it and realized profit, this can help me lower my obligation, otherwise known as basically tax farming or tax optimization, right? And in this case, we're able to actually farm those losses, realize them, and now our actual obligation goes down. So this is a way where we can, again, click that optimize losses button, but in this case, we just have one standard transaction. It would be basically going through selling that XRP and being able to lower our tax obligation. There's a few other areas as well, and a much more common way of looking at this is if we were to just go here to Bitcoin, for example, we only have one serious purchase here, the cost basis and the market price. So we made a lot of money here buying this Bitcoin. We don't have any losses here, but if we, for example, had some transactions where we recently bought Bitcoin and the market dipped and we're actually at a loss for that, well, it would be really good to sell that specific Bitcoin versus the Bitcoin where, again, if at the end of the day and stuff we need to pay taxes overall, we can, again, sell the Bitcoin that we bought at a current loss in this case versus Bitcoin that we have where we're in the profit, where we're in the green. And we want to possibly hold those cryptos long-term in order to realize a long-term capital gains tax obligation, which is smaller than a short-term capital gains obligation. Usually you pay a higher tax rate if you realize profits in the short term versus the long term. It's not always true, but in the United States it is. So anyways, that's generally it, guys. We've gone through pretty much all the major components here of the TaxBit platform. Again, I want to emphasize here, again, there's a lot of other additional features here where, again, if you open up towards some of the larger packages that TaxBit offers, you can get TaxBit accountant services. Again, you can modify your cost basis method. all kinds of things that really let you make TaxBit your own and be able to tailor towards your personal experience. So if you guys are interested, check out the link down below in the description. It's going to be the best place for you guys to get started. You'll also get a discount setting up your TaxBit account on any of the plans. And if you have any questions, again, you can't see it here, but in the bottom right, there's a nice blue chat icon where you can reach out to all the team members out there working on the support side of things. And I just want to say hats off to Austin as well as Justin here, two great brothers who have come together and built a successful product. They just did a $100 million raise. If you guys are wondering how serious TaxBit takes their services, data privacy, really building an industry standard for taxes, look no further than what they're doing and the success that they've had. I want to say, just on a personal note here, I know it's a bit outside of the product side of things, to Austin and Justin, two great guys who have gone out of their way to fix something really big in the crypto space. With all the success they've had, hats off to them. And again, guys, they've worked really hard at doing this over the last few years. So it's a great, great platform overall, and we've been very blessed to work with them in this capacity. And you've got a lot of companies and investors working with them in this case to make this as successful as it possibly can be. So if you guys are interested, check out the link down below in the description. But until the next video, if you guys like this one, please drop a like. And until the next video, I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, everyone.